welcome to this tutorial. In this video I will present 5 Max for Life patches that I have been developing following the principles of non-Euclidean rhythms, and that's how I call my research on rhythm. So if you want to know more about this research, you can follow the link in the description below, and you will find there also the download links for the patches. And so I'm starting right away with the first Max for Life patch. It's a MIDI effect that is right here, and it's called Professor Braff Steps. So basically what it does, it reschedules the notes in your MIDI clips and plays them after some rhythmic transformations that you can specify here with those parameters. The most important parameter maybe it's the pattern, and you can enter the pattern here in this field by just typing digits between 1 and 9. So 0 is not considered, it won't work. So any digits between 1 and 9. And so the number of digits will correspond to the low value here, and the sum of the numbers here will correspond to the high value here 4. So 211, there's 3 digits, and so the 3 digits are a triangle, as you can see. If I add another digit, 4 digits is a square, 5 is a pentagon, etc. And so basically what's happening is that a cycle, a duration that is specified here in a ratio field will be subdivided according to this pattern value. So here 1/4 is subdivided in 3, so it's a triangle. So what is this ratio? This ratio is actually the ratio to Ableton Live's transport. It's a ratio of a full 4 bar. So 1/4 of a full 4 bar is a quarter note cycle. So that quarter note cycle would be subdivided here in 3. As you can hear, let me set it to 4/4. And so here are the notes of my MIDI clips. As you can notice, this is 16 note steps, but yet they are played at a rate of 8 note triplets, meaning 3 subdivisions of the quarter note pulse. But here in ratio I can specify anything from 1/5 to 3/13, whatever, anything. Again, here in the ratio fields, you specify the ratio to a full 4 bar of Ableton's transport, and this cycle, this duration, this ratio will be then subdivided according to the amount of digits that you have here. So let me just demonstrate. Just changing the pattern value. Well, etc. So each subdivision here will actually correspond to one 16 note step in your MIDI clip. So if I change the ratio value to 1 second, so half note, to 3/4 of a bar, so no surprise, 3/4 subdivided in 3 means 1/4. And now if you turn the morph knob, you can see that the triangle is morphing between the straight triangle and a triangle that has proportions 2, 1, 1, right? 2, 1, 1. And because the sum is 4, happens to be 2 quarters, 1 quarter, and 1 quarter of the cycle that is specified here. So as you can see, the 16 notes, they are rephrased, replayed according to the morph value and the pattern. So it might be confusing at first that the scrolling bar in the clip view is actually not at all following what is played. Right, it's really independent. Now, as you can see, that triangle at 100% of morph happens to be inscribed in a square, right? And as a matter of fact, you can see the square here if you select the high subdivision. So here I'm switching between the 3 warped subdivision and the straight high subdivision. But the thing is that they keep in sync wherever you are in the morph with your morph value. Right? So you can see I have here 2 figures, one square and one triangle, and they both in sync, meaning that all points of the triangle, of course, the one that's here below, but the other points of the triangle, they remain in sync with the 4-angle figure, which happens to be a perfect square at 100% morph. So on one end I have a perfect square and a warped triangle, and as I morph to the other side, well, I have a totally morphed square, and which coincides with a perfect triangle. Okay, so that's Professor Braff Steps. There's one more element here that I will present later in this video. But basically that's it about Professor Braff Steps. So now I'd like to present you the second Max for Life patch. It's also a MIDI effect, and it's called the ARP for arpeggiator. It copies pretty much Max for Life ARP that you can find in the Max for Life pack, but of course you find here the same elements that you had in Steps. So pattern, ratio, morph, low, high, and you have those same here in ARP: pattern, ratio, morph, low, high. And the rest is a straightforward arpeggiator. It's basically doing the same but arpeggiating the incoming MIDI. So here I have a chord that is playing. Right, so exactly the same principle. I can morph. I can change the pattern value. I can can change the ratio value. I can switch between low and high subdivisions. Right. So same as in steps, but with an arpeggiator. And so that enables me to introduce the next Max for Live MIDI effect, which is the master. So the master here is one patch to rule them all, meaning you can send pattern, ratio, more values, and some more features to up to four different channels, to four different groups of devices that will listen in your entire session. So here I have both steps and ARP listening to the same channel, and this is the one I am altering here. But of course, if I go to channel number 2 and I change the values, morph, everything is here changed. If I switch here the channel in the ARP, you can see that everything updates, right? So once I'm here, I can change the morph value. I switch back here. The morph value here in the master is changing, but it doesn't update in the arpeggiator because the arpeggiator is listening to channel 1 and now master is sending to channel 2, right? Right, so this is the main feature of the master patch, but there's two more features that I'd like to present here. First, those three knobs here, those are actually pattern generators, and they follow a little bit the principles of Euclidean rhythms, if you know Euclidean rhythms. And basically here you have a value of accents and here the number of beats. You can see if I change here, the pattern automatically updates. At 0 morphing, well, 2 is a straight line, 3 is a triangle as you can see, 4 a square, and so on, right? But then here the quantized value is how many steps am I distributing the tuplet value to. I have the choice here between 5 and 4. You can see the pattern here updating. And of course, at 0% of morphing, it doesn't make a difference. Both are straight triangles, but if I change the morph, you can see that's my Euclidean rhythm. Balance will be actually iterating through different rotations of the pattern following a property that I call groove balance, which basically corresponds to the weight, to how the weight is distributed in your cycle. So if there's more weight to the right or towards the next beat, then the balance, you can set it to here to the right, more to the left, so more sticky, more laid back maybe if you wish, then it's here to the left. So that's a pattern generator. Let me play this. Okay, so that's the pattern generator. And last but not least, you can set the pattern using incoming MIDI in the track where you have the master patch. And it functions a little bit like a tap tempo, except that what you tap is not the tempo, but is the pattern. So let me show you this. I have here a launch pad. I have incoming MIDI here on my track 1, on my master track. Well, not the master track, but the track where I have the master patch. And so this is how it works. After you hit the listen button, it starts blinking, so it's ready to capture your pattern. And you actually tap it by tapping the same MIDI note, whichever MIDI note, but you tap the same, except when you get back to the 1, this is where you change notes. So any other note will then define the duration according to the ratio here, and also it will try to guess your pattern. So let me demonstrate that. My transport is stopped and I just hit the MIDI notes. And while playing also I can switch. Oh yeah, sorry, listen first. Right, so this is quite convenient for live situations where you can tap your pattern and then it starts playing, or it immediately switches to your pattern. And it adjusts the tempo here based on a calculation depending on what ratio value you have. So here my ratio is 1/2, and the pattern that I just tapped is supposed to happen over 1/2 of Ableton's 4/4 bar. So the patch will calculate according to the duration what tempo has to be set to the quarter note. And it also guesses your morph value, as you can see here. I tapped and it guessed the morph value. So let me demonstrate this again. Another one. So you can see the morph here updated based on how I grooved my incoming, the tapped pattern. And then, of course, once the pattern and morph are guessed, captured, then you can always modulate morph or pattern. Now I can, based on that, still modulate my tapped pattern. So that's it for the master patch. I am going to demonstrate now two audio effects that follow the same principles. And so I'll start with Professor Braff Shaper, which basically allows you to draw control signals and map them to whichever parameter in your session. So here I have mapped this volume here. So if I change my pattern here, so you can see that the grid updated because snap was enabled. It re-quantized my points, and it's like a normal shaper. I have offset, depth, and all the parameters here: pattern, morph, ratio, high, low. And maybe one thing is grouping that hasn't been seen yet. So what's grouping? Let me maybe draw a different. There we go. So that you can hear. Okay, so here I have a pattern that's a 5-tuplet, a quintuplet. So you can see here in the grid, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you don't see the grid being warped, but it is being warped like the other devices that I've shown you. Right? So if I morph, you can see here the volume being automated by this control signal. And so grouping will actually group the steps of the incoming warped grid, if you want. So those 5 steps will be grouped, and then each segment will correspond to the grouping that you specify. So now if I switch to grouping of 2, so every second step I have my control signal updated. Right? So one last thing is this input phase field that's kind of new also. This is essentially useful in arrangement view. So the MIDI patches, so arpeggiator and the steps, in arrangement view, they will resync each time there's a clip start in your track. But that doesn't work for the audio devices, so Shaper and LFO that I will show you later. So in order to resync it, to adjust the phase, depending on where you are in your arrangement, you can change the phase here. Wherever you position your transport bar line, it shows here the phase to the incoming clock, so to speak. And you can copy it just by hitting the arrow or entering whatever you want. So in arrangement view with automation, you can then adjust the phase of the input signal. So what's the input signal? The input signal is the cycle that will correspond to that value here of the ratio. Okay, so the phase that you adjust here is not the phase of the control signal, it's the phase of the cycle that generates the control signals. So that's it for Professor Braff Shaper. And so the last patch that I'd like to present is the LFO. Here we go. Let me put it here. So the LFO is doing exactly the same as the shaper, except that you have defined waveforms that will be also warped according to the same principles. So let me demonstrate that. Well, I map also to the volume. Right. So here again, grouping. And of course, you can map to several parameters of your session. Let me try to map to the frequency of the filter here. Of course, pulse width for the square waveform. And again, same here, input phase to be used in arrangement view. So that's it for those Max for Life patches. I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, if you like the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to stay updated with further improvements and developments. Thank you very much.